Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stepping into a virtual university-level chemistry lecture to truly master the interpretation of mass spectra. You can think of the mass spectrometer as an analytical magnifying glass, and the mass spectrum it produces, well, it's essentially a molecular crime scene, completely full of brilliant, tiny clues just waiting to be pieced together. So if you've ever wondered how scientists figure out the exact structure of completely unknown compounds, you are absolutely in the right place. Here is our syllabus for today's lecture. 1. Demystifying mass spectrometry. 2. Creating gas phase ions. 3. Reading molecular fingerprints. 4. Decoding isotopic signatures. And 5. Strategies for interpretation. Let's jump right into section 1. Demystifying mass spectrometry, the analytical magnifying glass. To kick things off, let's establish exactly what this technique is. Mass spectrometry is essentially a method that lets us identify the amount and type of chemicals present in a sample. It does this by measuring two fundamental things: the mass-to-charge ratio, which we call m/z, and the abundance of gas phase ions. By plotting that ion signal as a function of the m/z ratio, we get a spectrum. And that spectrum is the absolute key to determining a molecule's elemental composition and figuring out its exact chemical structure. Now, this entire seemingly complex operation actually boils down to 4 fundamental steps. First, we take our sample, could be solid, liquid, or gas, and we ionize it. Second, during that ionization process, the sample's molecules might break apart into charged fragments. Third, we separate those resulting ions based on their specific mass-to-charge ratio. And finally, step 4, a detector counts these charged particles and translates them into the spectrum that we analyze. Imagine the physical journey of a sample going through this process. It starts in a sample vial, gets introduced into the system, and is immediately ionized. You literally see neutral molecules transforming into positively and negatively charged particles. From there, they shoot through the analyzer, getting separated by their mass-to-charge ratios until they finally hit the detector. That's what generates that beautiful bar graph-like spectrum at the very end. Moving right along to section 2, creating gas phase ions, specifically looking at hard versus soft ionization. We basically have 2 main schools of thought here when it comes to ionization. On one hand, we have hard ionization, like electron impact, or EI. This method shoots a beam of high-energy electrons, usually around 70 electron volts, straight at the vaporized molecules. It is literally like smashing a Lego castle with a hammer. It knocks electrons off and causes extensive, sometimes violent fragmentation. On the other hand, we have soft ionization techniques, like electrospray or MOLDI, which are often used for biological samples. These are so much gentler. They convert analyte molecules into the gas phase completely intact, without shattering them. Which brings us to section 3, reading molecular fingerprints. Let's look at the case of toluene. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would we want to smash a molecule to pieces with hard ionization? Well, let's look at the fragmentation pathway of toluene, which is a common organic solvent with the formula C7H8. When we hit it with that intense 70 electron volt beam, it first loses a single electron to form the molecular ion at an MZ of 92. That represents the intact molecule. But because it has so much excess energy, it quickly starts falling apart in highly predictable ways. It'll lose a hydrogen radical to form a superstable benzyl or tropylium ion at MZ91. Further bond breaking creates a phenyl cation at 77, and even smaller fragments at 65, 51, and 39. We are literally watching the molecule systematically disassemble itself. Because this high-energy fragmentation is based entirely on the specific chemical bonds within the molecule, these fragment ions create a unique pattern. It's almost like a fingerprint of the compound. And here's the best part. Electron impact spectra are incredibly reproducible. Under the exact same conditions, toluene is always going to shatter in this exact same way. That means we can confidently match these spectral fingerprints against massive digital libraries to identify completely unknown substances. It's a real game changer. All right, section 4, decoding isotopic signatures. We're on the hunt for chlorine and bromine clues. As a quick reminder, isotopes are atoms of the same element that have different masses because they carry extra neutrons. In organic chemistry, we are absolutely obsessed with the isotopic patterns of 2 specific elements, chlorine and bromine. Why? Because their heavy isotopes are incredibly abundant in nature. Take chlorine, for example. It exists as chlorine-35 about 75% of the time and chlorine-37 about 25% of the time.
That creates a really distinct 3-to-1 intensity ratio in our spectrum. Bromine is even wilder. It's essentially a 50-50 split between bromine 79 and bromine 81, which gives us a perfect 1-to-1 ratio.
Now, the truly fascinating detail here is a very specific number: 2 mass-to-charge units. Because the heavy isotopes of both chlorine and bromine have exactly 2 more neutrons than their lighter counterparts, the gap between the primary molecular ion peak and the heavy isotope peak will always be exactly 2 MZ units apart. When you look at real mass spectrum data for a compound like bromobenzene, this concept really jumps out at you. If you look at the molecular ion region, you'll see 2 tall lines right next to each other at MZ 156 and 158. They're exactly 2 units apart, and their heights are roughly equal. That's the classic 1-to-1 ratio. Without knowing anything else about the compound, the second you see those twin peaks, you immediately know a bromine atom is present in your molecule. It's an instant giveaway. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Strategies for Interpretation. Let's talk about piecing it all together. Okay, so we know how to make ions, and we know how to spot isotopes. But when you're faced with a totally unknown spectrum, it's super easy to get overwhelmed. Luckily, forensic scientist R. Martin Smith outlined a highly effective 4-step evaluation process. Step 1, just get an overview. Is the spectrum simple or is it complex? Step 2, find and evaluate the molecular ion, which is your intact molecule. Step 3, evaluate the major fragments, what pieces fell off. And step 4, use all that information to piece together a possible molecular structure. Let's look just a bit closer at steps 2 and 3. Step 2 is an absolute goldmine for clues. If you find your molecular ion and it has an odd molecular mass, say an M/Z of 73, well, the nitrogen rule tells us you likely have an odd number of nitrogen atoms in your structure. Or if that molecular ion peak is incredibly strong and tall, it strongly suggests the presence of a highly stable aromatic ring, like a benzene ring, holding the whole molecule together. And of course, as we just discussed, this is exactly where you look for those 3-to-1 or 1-to-1 isotope patterns that practically scream chlorine or bromine. Once you've got the full mass figured out, step 3 requires you to look at the gaps between the peaks. You're looking for the loss of small neutral molecules. For instance, if your molecular ion is at 100 and your next major peak is at 82, you lost 18 mass units. What weighs 18? Water, H2O. By identifying these diagnostic loss pieces, like water, ethylene, or carbon dioxide, you can logically deduce what functional groups must have been attached to the original molecule. At this point, it's really just simple subtraction. And that brings us to the end of our journey today. By understanding the fundamentals of ionization, recognizing unique fragmentation fingerprints, decoding those clever isotopic ratios, and applying a systematic 4-step strategy, you are now fully equipped to solve molecular mysteries. Whether it's for pharmaceutical analysis, environmental monitoring, or investigating a forensic crime scene, these are the exact tools experts use every single day. So, I leave you with this thought. If mass spectra are the fingerprints of the microscopic world, what unknown compound will you identify next? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.